From the world of AV programming and control with James King, I'm Steve Greenblatt, and this is Ask the Programmer. Hey, James, how are you today? I'm looking forward to this episode. I know I say that a lot, but this one's with a returning guest and one of our most popular guests on the show.
Yeah, I'm doing good, Steve. I always look forward when we can connect, but especially when we can connect with this guest. He always brings wonderful questions, makes us really work our brain muscles to get through these and provide value not just to our listeners, but also to his readers.
Absolutely, absolutely. So without further ado, well, welcome back, Dan Ferrisi. He's the group editor, commercial and security with Emerald, and he oversees commercial integrator and security sales and integration. And he's been on many of our episodes. So take a look back. The most recent are 199 and 200. And welcome back, Dan.
Thank you so much for having me. It's always good to see you, Steve. Always good to see you, James. You're very, very kind and generous in what you're saying about me. I guess I can tell my mom and dad to stop sending letters and emails telling them bring me back on my fan club. I really appreciate it.
I think you have more than that. I think you have
Yeah.
quite the fan club, and you've really done a great job of building community and really been able to be a focal point for AV industry tweeps. So it's been a lot of value that you've provided, and the friendship and relationships that we've built have been something that I treasure. So thank you.
Likewise, it's always great to connect with you both, and you're doing a fantastic job on this pod. Anytime I can be part of it and bring commercial integrator, security sales and integration to it, it's an opportunity I'll jump at.
And so with that, what Dan does when he comes on board, he kind of flips the script on us a bit. So we give him the mic. He brings to us some of the perspective from his audience, from the community that he's directly involved with, which is the integration community. And he has some questions, and we'll start off with the first one. Dan, take it away.
Yeah, again, I really appreciate the opportunity to be a conduit for our audience. Ultimately, as an editor, that's one of the things I love, being able to take questions from our readers, from our audience, and then being able to pose them to people that they might not have access to every day. But I'm fortunate enough to have that access and to be on this show. So what I typically do in the run up to being on Ask the Programmer or any other podcast is solicit our audience at CI plus SSI and find out what it is they're wondering about, what it is they're struggling with or have questions about. And that's what I'm coming on here today to share. So, my first question from our audience is this: will there be a time when control system programming will be approached with a software as a service or a SaaS model rather than with traditional custom programming? James, Steve, what say you?
If Steve doesn't mind, I'll jump in first on this because I've given this a lot of thought. Um, when I first hear software as a service model, especially in the AV industry, I want to shake my head and say, no, that ain't gonna happen. Um, but things do change. We do evolve, we do get better. I think one of my biggest concerns when you look at what we do in AV and what software as a service is we provide an experience. Software as a service is a great way to provide that experience with minimal upfront costs, long-term costs over it. The problem with that is when you cut that funding, that experience goes away.
Mm.
So it's like the lifeline of your experience is that software as a service. And that lifeline can be disrupted many different ways, such as, you don't have the funding to do it anymore, which is now on you as a company or user to hold, or that company goes belly up. We see it. We get mergers, acquisitions, companies fail. Now you no longer have that lifeline, and now your experience is gone. Where if you don't do software as a service, even if the company goes belly up, you still have the software still running. You may not get any updates. So that's where I've been going back and forth with it. I'm very torn. I kind of think back to I don't want to drop his name, but I will drop his name, Joe Way of Software as a Service Must Die, or AV as a Service Must Die. But I know he has made changes mindset, and I have as well.
That's a very good point, and I can't wait to hear what you have to say about it, Steve. But you make a very good point, James. If there is some kind of a disruption in funding or availability, all of a sudden, what might have worked on day one or two or 100, it's just going to be what, non-existent at that point. And then what are you going to do? You're going to be left scrambling. Whereas if you do have that kind of permanent fixture of an investment, you don't have to worry in that same way. What say you, Steve?
I do agree with James on a lot of this, and I think it's an interesting question to ponder because I think that the industry itself is resistant to change, and I think that we tend to get comfortable doing things a certain way. So a lot of this, I think, has to be driven by clients saying that this is what we need, and we expect you to provide it. And I think that if that voice becomes loud enough, we will have to do it, or we will find ourselves making a pivot and providing rather a software as a service model for control programming rather than a project basis. There's a lot of I's that need to be dotted and T's that need to be crossed and questions that need to be answered as to what that could look like. But what I when I thought about this a lot and leading up to this, I think that what we have to do in order to make this work is change our mindset a bit from doing custom to doing a more productized offering, and that could very well work for a lot of um, the types of rooms and types of applications that don't require custom. And if we look at the way we have seen some of the software products like Zoom, like Teams, like even Cisco's products over time, where you are paying a subscription to get the latest update, to get the patches, to be able to have access to firmware. So all of that says that subscription model would work. It depends if the software then if the clients are okay with software being the same that their neighbors have or that many other people have, and they don't need something that's more unique. Now we could, of course, evolve that to being a little bit configurable, a little bit customized, but for the most part, there's going to be a lot of constants that are going to have to occur in order to make a software as a service model work. Because I think the value that's provided in that is that you're always getting the latest features, you're always getting the latest updates, and that's why you continue to pay. At least that's been my experience in the software as a service applications that we buy, and that is the way of the world these days. I don't think many people buy a installed software and it's set and forget. We want to be able to have the latest features and functions, and I think security will play a part in that as well. So um, that's kind of my take on it. I do think though it needs to be driven by the purchasers.
Mm.
So I think you bring up a good point there, Steve. And this, I'm gonna talk to our audience here, who I feel are mostly programmers, and they're not the decision makers, but they need to be well informed and have a conversation because, like you said, Steve, especially as software as a service, that drive is going to come from two sides: your leadership who wants to save money, and the manufacturer who continue income coming in. When you boil it down, that's really the two driving forces with the software as a service is, or anything as a service is, the manufacturer wants a steady income and leadership wants to cut costs. Instead of paying big bulk of money, you can pay a little bit over time. But when you look at money as a driving factor, and you don't take into account of all the other elements, then you're making bad decisions for your users. And that's where us programmers need to be educated. Not saying, no, we can't do software as a service, because you need to answer why. You need to be able to answer why, educated why. Not going, oh, it's bad. Well, what does bad mean? Bad to you means you're out of a job. Like that's they're not going to care about that. But saying, hey, the experience here and here's the risk and all that stuff, you need as a program need to educate your leadership saying your concerns, and then they can have a educated decision. Now, doesn't say they won't go with that model. And then if us programmers go, well, they're going software as a service model, and now I'm out of, I mean, just like AI, and I'm not going to talk much about AI. It's a new tool. It's a new way of doing things. If you don't adapt, you are going to get left behind. So that's really what it comes down to. And I don't know if our listeners really like that hard truth, but it is a truth that we need to look at is if you're not going to adapt with the situation you're in, you're going to get left behind.
Interesting that you really emphasize that, James, because the counterpoint to that, or maybe the corollary, is you said at the outset, Steve, that the industry tends to be resistant to change. So those are kind of diametrically opposed forces, right? It's evolve or die, but at the same time, we're resistant to change. How are we reconciling that or squaring that circle? Because that's a difficult circle to square.
So my take is, and I know this is an unpopular one, is that's why IT is driving a lot of this. IT is very pivot driven. They adapt, they'll do things as a service, they'll move, and they move quickly. Like Steve mentioned, I know I've said many times, AV does it. AV digs their feet in and say, you know, we're doing it my way, or not doing it anyway. And then, but ITs is like, nope, we're not playing those games. We'll just bulldoze you over. Yes, AV is IT. Um, but yeah, it's one of those things is if you're not going to get on board with the train, you're going to get left behind.
I agree where you're coming from. And to answer the question also, Dan, I think it comes down to when business starts to dip and dry up, then and hopefully you stay ahead of this, you have to look for what's next. And
Mhm.
that's where I think the change is forced because it's change or die is what it comes down to. And you know, I've experienced many, you know, several pivots through my career and my company, and I know that the industry has made, you know, a number of pivots, and I think that it's always scary to take that next leap, but once somebody goes out and does it, and they are successful, then others will follow. Is what it comes down to. That you need a leader, you need a catalyst, and you need a client that's going to be an advocate. You know, and again, not to highlight Joe, but I think Joe Way was the one that really got everybody thinking about how do we do a cloud-based solution and how do we do something that has very minimal hardware. And he, you know, he did a great job with that.
Mhm.
Well, I think it's really important to have those kind of tip of the spear innovators that are willing to step out of their comfort zone. As you say, eventually the industry will follow along if it's successful. But I give kudos to those who are willing to be the tip of the spear, willing to be on that bleeding edge and try things that maybe are a little bit different from the paradigm we're used to, different from the traditional approach, and ultimately can be very, very successful.
Yeah, I think our industry needs that, and as much as those people may be unpopular or tend to be targeted or you know ruffle some feathers, we need that in order to inject life into what we're doing. And to James' point is that if we're not moving forward and we're not blazing our path, other people are going to come in and take it over, and we're going to lose the opportunities that we've built and the industry that has been our lifeline for all these years. And one of the things that I'll just comment on too with when we're looking at doing products and so forth, it is very risky and you know software as a service kind of fits into that category. And what I've learned through my career is that you really need to do a minimally viable product. You need to get buy-in, and there's a real methodology to be able to bring something to market like that, because bringing something to market that is not going to be well received can be fatal.
No
So
doubt about it.
I agree, definitely. But it's also like going back to what you were saying, Steve and Dan, is there's a saying that keeps coming up is in my head is today they will laugh at you, tomorrow they will ask for your advice.
Hmm.
And that's the thing is, yeah, we, the innovators, the ones who are pushing and, the change and all that stuff is today they might be looked at and going, you're crazy. Why are you doing that? That's not how we do it. But tomorrow there people are gonna be like, hey, can you explain to me how you did that? Those are the people who are going to get on that bus, on that train and follow the new trends. The ones who are still sitting there going, well, no, that's not how we did. We always did it this way. I'm not changing are the ones who are going to get left behind.
It's very easy to be a me too. It's brave and lonely and sometimes scary to be a me first or a me only. But ultimately, if it's successful, you're right. Everyone's going to come to you and say, how did you do that? How can I do that? Can you help me? Can you guide me? Then it's a little bit less lonely.
I guess the question would be, I'll say, open it up, is how do those people get rewarded, for taking that risk? And, some of that is that they are successful, but it needs to be something that is monetary, in addition to the praise and the acknowledgement.
No doubt about it.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you, Dan. This was certainly a lively conversation that you brought to us, and certainly a great topic that I hope that your audience will appreciate and get value from. And I would really like to get their feedback. So, when you share this and when you can provide this insight to them, we're more than happy to continue the conversation in our LinkedIn group and other ways. So thank you for being on the podcast. How could people get in touch with you? How could they learn more about your publications and anything else that you wanted to promote or share?
Thanks again, Steve. Thanks again, James, for having me. It's always an honor and a privilege to be here. You can find me on LinkedIn. I tend to be pretty active there. You can also go to commercialintegrator.com if you're on the AV side, or securitysales.com if you're on the security side. You'll certainly see me in Denver this September at CEDIA Expo and Commercial Integrator Expo, the place to be this fall for all types of AV, whether it's custom home or commercial. And then at Total Tech Summit, our entrepreneurial thought leadership event taking place in November in Orlando. We can't wait to see you there. So go to totaltechsummit.com if you would like to apply to attend or apply to be a sponsor. It's a real thought leadership conference of the brightest entrepreneurs. You've been there, I think, 2 or 3 years in a row, Steve, your team, Brittany. It's a fantastic place to be, and we hope to see you there.
Thanks, and I concur, and look forward to seeing some of our audience there as well. James, how could people get in touch with you? How could they continue the conversation and keep up with what you're doing?
You can find me on there on the webs. You Google me, you'll find me. I'm on X as AV_James King. I'm on LinkedIn in the community as the programmer. Anything with HEPMA. Uh, I will be at InfoComm this year in Florida. I will be presenting 3 sessions, so definitely come find me. And again, Google me, you'll find me.
Absolutely. And I will be in InfoComm as well, and looking forward to seeing some of our audience and saying hi. And please come up to us and let us know that you're out there and introduce yourself. And it's really an honor when people do so. And I also have a session that I'm doing with Brittany DeCessory, who's been on the show a couple of times, where we're taking our personality types presentation that we've done before and evolving that a bit and applying it a little bit more specifically to the AV industry. That's going to be on Tuesday prior to the show, so check that out. For me, you can reach me at Steve Greenblatt on social media. My company, Control Concepts, is a supporter of this show, and what we do is help programmers succeed. We build the building blocks that either integrate products or add functionality to systems, and that can be all found at controlconcepts.net. And as James said, we are trying to grow our community on LinkedIn, Ask the Programmer, where we're doing some posting. So please join us there if you haven't been already, and continue this conversation. And we'd love to hear your feedback. And we're seeing audience numbers grow and listeners grow, and we really appreciate that. You could catch us on YouTube in the video version or on your favorite podcast platform in audio. And I'm sure that after this episode, as typical, when Dan is on, we tend to see a spike in numbers. So that's always great. And until next time, this has been Ask the Programmer.